part 2 of this build log. Today my EVGA motherboard has finally arrived and is here to replace the Gigabyte motherboard that I previously had that had a bad onboard NIC, as well as some issues with the BIOS where it would reboot or not post and not even let me in the operating system sometimes. So hopefully you won't have any problems with this motherboard and we can go ahead and get started. So I've just removed the hard drives out of the other server and I'm going to start plugging them into this motherboard so we can begin transferring data off the old server and putting it onto the new server, or the Disseminator. And this isn't too hard of a process, it's just quite literally plugging in drives. I'm not going to put these hard drives into a RAID because I already have the Western Digital Red drives for that, and I'll get those in a RAID once I get all the data over here. So let's go ahead and click this bad boy on and let's get started. That's not good. Oh, I think I left the power supply turned off. So let's get this bad boy started and see what happens. Beautiful. So it didn't take long for us to start having problems. As you can see, I'm looking at a completely black screen because the server will not boot up and I can't access it remotely. Not really sure what's going on. Probably gonna have to reboot it a couple of times to try and troubleshoot this thing really quickly. But I think it's dead. So I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna recover all the data that I need off of it. This is gonna be fun. It really sucks when your server's really high up because you can't reach the power button or the reset switch. So if you use a screwdriver and try and poke it, there we go. I got it. Let's see what we can do here. Oh, I missed the BIOS. Uh-oh. Eureka! I think we're in. If this works, I'm gonna be so excited. Oh. Oh no! My keyboard is dead. Or my keyboard does not work, so something's going on here. I have mouse control, so that's good. Come on. Control. Alright, we are in. Alright, she's booted back up, so that wasn't too bad. My heart was racing there for a minute because I wasn't quite sure if we were going to be able to get this thing up and running. But it looks like we're good to go. Okay, so we are definitely in. Right now I'm just verifying that the IP address and everything else is correct and all the services have already started, which it looks like they have. So it looks like we only had about 20 minutes of downtime, which is actually quite a lot. Luckily I'm not enterprise grade, and this is only for home use. The website and everything else appears to be working, which is good. That means that we're all in order. I am connected to Mumble already. As you can see here, Steam's got to, of course, do these updates, so I can't start my Space Engineer server until now. And it looks like we're good to go. Before I start transferring data over, I'm going to want to go ahead and create a network team so I can transfer data at the fastest possible speeds. I'm going to go ahead and give my network team a name. We're going to call it Noble. We've already got both of the Ethernet devices selected. And then we're just gonna make it switch independent. Now that network team is created, I'm gonna go ahead and start transferring over data and leave you guys out of all the boring parts. So I'm having a problem with the EVGA motherboard recognizing one of the hard drives. I don't know if it's a hard drive problem yet, but it was working before I brought it over here to the EVGA motherboard. So I'm thinking it might be because of the RAID. I'm going to try and completely wipe the drive, and hopefully that'll alleviate our issues, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we got all of the data transferred over finally, and I'm gonna shut down the old server for good and get it all transferred over to the new case, and hopefully nothing happens at all. I am super excited to get this done and over with because this is gonna be a sweet server once it's done. Now we've got a lot of work ahead of us to do. We still gotta build RAIDs, we still gotta get data transferred over accordingly onto the new RAID 5. I gotta put the DarkRock Pro 3 on this server. Just got a lot of work to do. And the server's shut down. So let's go ahead and go grab it and take it out of the case and get everything all switched over. So this thing weighs probably 50 pounds, maybe more. And hopefully I don't kill myself while trying to get it out. Hopefully. Ooh. Okay, so first things first, I'm just gonna go ahead and remove all of the hard drives out of the case, and I'm just going to set them aside for now. We're also going to have to remove all these hard drive cages so I can get to the cables in the rear. And now I'm just going to take out the RAID card and the 2 additional NICs that I have installed in this thing. RAID card's uninstalled. Nothing fancy. My 4-port Intel NIC, my 1-port Gigabyte Netgear Nick. And now time to remove the Dark Rock Pro 3. Well, actually, before we do that, I gotta remove the RAM so I can get to it. And before I can get to the RAM, I gotta unplug all this other stuff. Some Corsair Vengeance RAM. Don't even remember the specs of this. Doesn't matter. Get the pretty good feeling when I remove these 4 screws that the Dark Rock Pro might actually fall the other side. So this is gonna be quite the challenge. And I just need to figure out how the heck I'm gonna get it out of there. Okay, so the Dark Rock Pro 3 is finally loose. Now we just need to uncouple it from apparently everywhere. There we go. So we're gonna set this aside for now. Gonna unplug the rest of these. Fan headers, all of these SATA cables, more fan headers, USB, HD audio, CPU power. So before I take out the CPU or do anything else with it, I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it with alcohol so that way I don't get anything dirty or get any of the thermal paste on anything else, and it'll be nice and clean when I'm ready to put it back in storage. All right, and the motherboard is free. Sad to see it go, but like most things, when it's time to upgrade, it's time to upgrade. Okay, so we've got the Dark Rock Pro 3 attached to the motherboard. The low profile RAM sits well beneath it, and it totally fits, which is really good, and it was probably the easiest installation I've had for our Dark Rock Pro 3 ever. And it's probably because there's plenty of space underneath it to grab these screws right here. No, you can't really see that, but that really helps a lot when the installation, when you can actually reach things. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and give this thing a test fire to make sure it boots up. Okay guys, we're gonna do our first test boot to see if this thing works, so wish me luck. Scary moment. Oh man, scared me for a second there. Gotta turn the power supply on. All right, we got some lights and activity. Uh-oh. It's not posting. That's not good. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna turn the power supply off real quick. Okay, so the motherboard won't post. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I don't even have any hard drives or anything plugged into it. All I have is graphics card and the RAM and the CPU, of course, and it just keeps turning on and turning right back off. I guess I'm gonna have to do some troubleshooting or something. I might give it a minute. I'm probably gonna start cleaning up a little bit in the meantime, and we'll get back to it, and we'll see what happens. So right now I'm removing the last part of the Dark Rock Pro 3 from the old motherboard. I'm a little nervous about the EVGA board not booting right now. Maybe I damaged it while installing the Dark Rock Pro 3. Maybe the magnets damaged something on the motherboard. So that CPU is about $1,000, maybe even more depending on where you buy that from. And I'm a little nervous at this point, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it just yet. And hopefully after I finish cleaning up a little bit here, I'll come up with some good ideas about the best way to troubleshoot the problem, and it won't take so long for me to fix, if I can fix it. So let me get cleaned up here a little bit, and then we'll see what happens with the motherboard. So good news, we actually got the motherboard to boot into the operating system. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and install the audio shield because we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, so we're gonna have to do some cable rerouting first before we drop in. Okay, so now that we got all the cables out of the way, it should be much easier to drop this thing into place. The hard part is just getting in just right. Now we just have to go about our business, reconnecting all the correct cables, and we should be good to go. I'll spare you guys the cable management. The motherboard is now secure, so we're just gonna go ahead and plug in all our fan headers so we can get all the fans working, and we'll be that much closer to being done. The hard part is yet to come. Okay, everything's in place. All I have left to do is power all the hard drives and get the SATA cables connected. But before I do that, I'm actually gonna clone this hard drive onto this SSD, so that way we can get the fastest possible speeds while configuring the rest of the computer. And then after I do that, I'm gonna plug in these Western Digital red drives and configure that into RAID 5. And then also get these last 2 drives here, or maybe here, I don't even remember anymore, configured so that way they'll just be parity drives or backup drives for the SSD or the server itself. So we still got a ways to go. All right, now hopefully I plugged everything in correctly, and I'm gonna power this baby on for the first time with everything, not plugged in, but with everything where it should be. and let's see what happens. Well, at least the power button worked on the first try. Not getting video just yet. This is kind of quiet, a little scared, a little nervous. Still no video. It started beeping. I don't know what that means. It looks like it powered up. I'm looking at the Windows logo right now. Possibly not enough power, possibly RAM, possibly anything, but it looks like it's working. Okay, well, in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and get this drive cloned over to this drive, and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, I'm off to a rocky start already. The keyboard and mouse don't seem to work, so I can't quite log in. I'm accessing it remotely in hopes of this actually helping my situation, but we'll see what happens. I am actually logged in at the moment. Maybe I have to reinstall drivers to get this working again. Maybe I just need to update the BIOS. Not really sure, but I'll get that fixed out here in a minute. Okay, so after several issues, it's finally done. I ended up actually managing to recover the RAID 5 that I initially had from the old server, as well as one of the other old RAIDs. So these Western Digital 5 terabyte hard drives are in a RAID 5. These 3 hard drives over here are also in a RAID 5. This is just backup storage, as well as backups for the actual operating system, and then the operating system itself, and then 3 more SSDs of storage. One of the problems I actually have with this is one of the SATA ports does not work, so I ended up having to use my RAID card, which is all the way over here. Other than that, it all surprisingly turned out pretty well. It's running perfectly fine. I haven't had any issues. And probably the best part is I didn't have to do a fresh install of Windows Server 2012 like I initially thought I would have to. I plugged it in, it complained and moaned a little bit, and it ended up working out pretty well. So I'm really happy that happened. The other hard drive that I was using before, I'm just gonna scrap and just gonna be used for extra storage. And well, she's ready to go. So I'm gonna do some cable management and then get her put back up in the server room and everything get reconnected, and we're done here. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was quite the roller coaster ride for me, and it was actually a lot of fun, even though there was some moment there where I really thought I had lost everything, but we ended up coming through on top in the end, and that makes me happy. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.